There are days when time doesn't pass, it exhales. Have you ever felt like a single moment held an entire lifetime? Not the loud ones, not the milestones or the birthdays, but those quiet seconds when someone's breath pauses, and you realize they may not take another. This is not a story about death. This is a story about the things we never say, and the rooms we leave them in. About an old man who stopped speaking for 15 years, and the grandson who decided to listen anyway. What happens when silence becomes heavier than pain? Let me take you there. The house sat at the edge of a field in Vermont, where the grass bent with the wind like prayer flags. It was old, not in the way things decay, but in the way things endure. White paint chipped like tired skin. Windows that looked out not to the world, but inward. Inside, in a wooden armchair that creaked like it was breathing, sat Walter Hale, 81 years old, widower, decorated veteran, father, grandfather, and for 15 years, utterly silent. He hadn't spoken a word since the night his daughter died, not to the postman, not to the neighbors, not to the doctors, the nurses or the social worker who drove 4 hours just to check his pulse and left weeping, more from what wasn't said than what was. Walter's silence wasn't loud, it was sacred, like standing inside a church when no one's there and still feeling watched. His grandson, Noah, 26, had only known the version of him that didn't speak. As a boy, Noah would come with his mother to visit. She would talk to Walter like he was still there, set tea for 2, leave 1 untouched. She died when Noah was 14, a car crash, rain-slicked highway, just like her mother before her. After that, no one came anymore except Noah. It began with guilt. He was 23, burnt out from his second failed startup, and found himself driving upstate with no real plan. He thought maybe he'd stay a week, maybe just clean up the place, maybe sell it. But when he opened the door to that same wooden house, he found Walter sitting exactly where he had been at 14, unmoving, unspeaking, like the years had decided to orbit around him instead. And for some reason Noah couldn't explain, he stayed. Noah wasn't the type you'd imagine caring for the elderly. He wore headphones more often than socks, had tattoos in languages he didn't speak, could code a game but couldn't fry an egg. But something about Walter's silence made him stay. It wasn't awkward, it was profound, as if the house itself demanded reverence. Like the walls held things too sacred for noise. Each morning, Noah would make coffee and pour 2 mugs, set one in front of Walter, steaming. The old man never touched it. He'd just look out the window where a crooked tree, struck by lightning decades ago, bent toward the house like it was listening. Sometimes Noah would talk about small things, the cat he saw outside, the article he read, the way people didn't really look at each other anymore. And Walter would just blink slowly, but something strange began to happen. Noah noticed that when he spoke of his failures, Walter's fingers would twitch. When he mentioned pain, the old man's eyes would glisten, but only for a moment, and then, once, Noah had a nightmare. He'd fallen asleep on the couch, twisting in some storm of memory and regret. And when he woke, shivering, breathless, there was a blanket over him. Walter hadn't moved from his chair, but the blanket had. The days turned into weeks, and Noah began to wonder what had stolen Walter's voice. He found old photo albums in a drawer, pictures of a little girl, Walter's daughter, his mother. One image, a beach, a girl on her father's shoulders, both laughing, wind in her curls, a sun that seemed to burn through the paper even now. Another image, the same girl, older, a teenager, holding a violin, frowning, alone. And a third image, torn, just the edge of Walter's face and a shadow of someone else. A man? A boy? The rest was missing. Noah held it in his hands for a long time. Then he turned to Walter and asked, "Who was in this picture?" The old man didn't blink. Noah tried again, quieter. "Was it her husband, my father?" Still nothing. But in the silence, something shifted. Not in Walter, in the air, in the weight of the room, as if the house itself had inhaled. That night, Noah walked out to the field. The stars were out, the kind of stars you forget exist when you live near cities. He looked up and said softly, "I don't know who you were before, but I want to know who you are now." From the window, Walter watched him. Something flickered in his throat, a memory perhaps, a name, a goodbye never spoken, but it didn't come out. Not yet. The third Tuesday of October brought the nurse. Lena, 42, single mother, ex-ballet dancer turned palliative care professional. She didn't speak in questions, she spoke in invitations. "Mr. Hale," she'd say gently, rolling in the cart of medications he never took, "do you mind if I sit by the window today?" Walter didn't answer, but he didn't object either, and in his world, that was permission. Lena noticed things quickly, the untouched meals, the trembling of his fingers when Noah played old jazz records, the way his eyes avoided mirrors. But most of all, she noticed Noah. He was trying, harder than anyone she'd seen in years. She stayed a little longer each time. One afternoon, Lena brought a small speaker. She set it on the windowsill and played a recording. A girl's voice, young, shy, tuning a violin. Noah looked up from his laptop. "Who is that?" Lena paused. "It was in one of your mother's old boxes. The tape said, 'First Recital, 1982. Walter froze. Then, very slowly, he stood. It was the first time Noah had seen him rise from that chair. He walked toward the speaker, steps unsure but determined. His eyes shone, not with tears, but something deeper. Recognition. Maybe regret. He reached for the speaker with trembling hands, but instead of turning it off, he turned it louder. The violin began, out of tune, fragile, full of soul. Walter sank to his knees, and for the first time in 15 years, he cried. That night, Noah sat with Lena on the porch. "Do you think he's ever going to speak again?" he asked, staring into the dark. Lena lit a cigarette, didn't inhale, just watched the tip burn like a slow truth. "I think some people don't lose their voice," she said. "They bury it beneath something they're too afraid to face." Noah nodded slowly. Then, "My mom died angry at him. She thought he didn't love her anymore, that he blamed her for something." Lena looked at him carefully. "And what do you believe?" Noah hesitated. "I think he blames himself, and that's worse." The next day, Noah opened a box in the attic he hadn't touched before. Old letters, hospital bills, a birth certificate, his, but no father's name. Then, at the bottom, a journal, leather-bound, fragile. Inside, Walter's handwriting, sharp, precise, until it wasn't. March 3rd, 1998. She said she was pregnant. He left. She came here. I didn't know what to do. I never wanted her to feel ashamed. June 12th, 2001. She cries at night. I hear her through the walls. I don't know how to help. I fix things, but not this. October 9th, 2008. She asked if I blamed her. I couldn't answer. She walked out. The next call was the hospital. The last entry was nearly illegible, shaky. I tried to speak at the funeral. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. It hasn't since. Noah sat in the armchair now, Walter across from him, silent as always. Noah placed the journal on the table between them. "I think I understand now," he whispered. Walter looked at the book, then at Noah. Very slowly he reached out, not for the journal but for Noah's hand. The first touch between them in years. His skin was cold, paper thin, but the grip was firm. And then, just as Noah thought the moment had reached its peak, Walter's lips parted, and he said in a voice like dry leaves, "I'm sorry. If this story is touching your heart, like the video and save it to revisit later, when silence feels too heavy and you need a reminder that even broken voices can find their way back." Sometimes healing begins when someone finally listens. Walter didn't speak again for 3 days, but something had changed. He began to move more, eat a little, look Noah in the eyes when he entered the room. The silence remained, but now it felt different. Not a wall, but a threshold. Then came the evening when Lena knocked and said, "It's time." His body was failing, the kind of failing that no medicine touches. His breath had become shallow, his hands like folded parchment, and in his eyes, a readiness, not for death, for release. Noah sat by the bedside. The house was quieter than it had ever been. Even the wind seemed to pause. Walter turned to him, not slowly, not with effort, but like he'd been waiting. And then, with breath that came from the deepest part of him, he spoke. "Noah," he said. It was a whisper and a wound at once. "I should have told you everything. Long ago." Noah leaned closer, tears already forming. "I know." But Walter shook his head. "No, you don't. Your mother, she was light, even when life made her dim." He stopped to breathe, each word now a gift snatched from the edge. "I didn't protect her from the world, or from herself. I thought if I stayed silent, I could carry the weight for her." His voice cracked. "But silence isn't love, it's absence." Noah pressed his forehead to Walter's hand. "I forgive you." The old man closed his eyes. A tear fell down his cheek, not from pain, from something purer, peace. Later that night, when Lena returned, Noah was still there holding Walter's hand. But Walter was not. He had passed gently, like the last ember of a candle. No smoke, no sound, just stillness. And on the bedside table, folded neatly, was a letter, written in shaky handwriting, addressed to Noah. "If you're reading this, it means I finally found the courage to speak, or to write at least. I want you to know that your presence gave me back what I had buried, the sound of life. I thought silence was penance, but I was wrong. It was prison. You opened the door. Live loud, Noah. Say the things, even the hard things, especially the hard things. And when you become a father, if you do, speak often, listen more, and forgive faster than I did." Noah folded the letter slowly. He didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, he stood, walked to the window, and opened it. The night air came in, and with it, a faint breeze that moved through the house like a goodbye that had waited 15 years to be heard. The house did not feel empty. It felt full, full of echoes that were no longer ghosts, full of memories that didn't ache to be remembered. They simply existed, like sunlight through old glass. Noah didn't leave right away. He stayed. A week turned into a month. The town quieted around him, and he began to hear the things Walter had once tried to drown in silence. Wind through the field, the floorboards exhaling at dusk, the creak of the armchair still holding shape. He found the torn photograph again. This time, he didn't wonder who the missing figure was. He simply placed it on the mantel, beside the violin his mother had left behind. And beside it, a new frame, a picture of him and Walter, taken by Lena 2 weeks before. Neither was smiling, but both were present. In late spring, Noah returned to New York, But something had shifted. He no longer rushed, no longer filled silence with noise. He found himself listening more, to others, to himself, to time. And then, on a quiet Sunday, he stood in a park holding a sapling, a small sugar maple. He dug into the soil slowly, reverently. A group of friends watched, a few co-workers. Lena, now his closest friend, had come all the way down with her daughter, who held the watering can. No plaque, no speech. Just Noah kneeling, whispering something to the roots and planting it. Months later he started writing, not code, not pitches, stories. The first one was called The Man Who Forgot How to Speak. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, it was soft, human, raw. It spread quietly, like a secret passed hand to hand. People said it made them call their fathers. Say I'm sorry, say I miss you. Say things they thought they had more time to say. He never signed it with his full name, just Noah H. Because legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about remembering what matters while we're still here. Some voices don't vanish. They become the wind through leaves we planted in grief. The warmth in rooms once cold with absence. The silence that no longer punishes but protects. Walter Hale never became a famous man, but his silence became a seed, and from it his grandson learned to speak, not loudly, but honestly. And in the end, that was enough, because love doesn't always return in words. Sometimes it returns in roots. If this story touched your heart, like and share it with someone who needs to remember that even long silences can bloom into something beautiful. And tell us in the comments, what words are still waiting to be spoken in your life? Subscribe and join us as we honor the stories that give meaning to every breath.